Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Volcanic deck profile. So, before we get into this guys, I really quickly want to give a shout out to our legend, Pain96. So, Pain96 has been waiting for Volcanic support for I don't even know how long at this point. I'm sure that he'll be down in the comments and comment down there and tell us exactly how many days it's been since we got Volcanic support. But I hope that with the way that Konami is making the newest packs, that hopefully we can get some Volcanic support very, very soon, because we're getting stuff from Gaia the Fierce Knight, Phantom Knights, Armed Dragon, all the way up to Stardust, and even Black Rose is getting its entire archetype refreshed. Maybe we can get some Volcanic support in the near future. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely hit that bell in there so you can become part of notification squad, and check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name screwed in every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. And definitely check the comments down there for our legend Pain96. So let's get straight on into this, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Volcanic Rocket, which I actually rarely upgraded from the last time. I really like these gold rares. They're really, really pretty for this deck. And what this card does is when this card is summoned, you get to add a Blaze Accelerator card from your deck or your graveyard to your hand, which is a very simplistic effect and is really, really good. It's actually tied into the Winged Dragon of Raw support somehow, because Blaze Cannon is a Blaze Accelerator for some reason. Like, I don't understand it, but it is. We then play a single copy of Volcanic Sheller, or Slicer. Slicer is really good because you can once per turn inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent, but this card can't attack during this turn, which is still a pretty good effect because this is a Ties of the Brethren build. This card is really good just to be able to get you an additional monster on the field for Ties of the Brethren and do 500 points of damage against your opponent. We then play 2 copies of Royal Flamestorm Guard. Flamestorm Guard, when it's normal summoned, you get to target 4 Pyro monsters in the graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 2. It's basically like a copy of Pot of Avarice, but on legs, and it's pretty good for that. We then play 2 copies of Barrier Statue of Inferno. Barrier Statue of Inferno makes it so that neither player can special summon any monsters but fire, which is a pretty good effect just to be able to have this on your side of the field with Ties of the Brethren, being able to special summon out your Volcanic Rocket, Slicer, and your copy of your Barrier Statue of Inferno. We then play a single copy of Volcanic Counter. Volcanic Counter is a pretty good card in this deck too, because this card helps out the deck a lot, because what it basically does is if your opponent, when you take any battle damage, when this card's in your graveyard, you can move it from play, and then if a fire monster other than Volcanic Counters in the graveyard, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the amount of damage you took. So for example, if I take 3,000 points of damage and this card's in the grave, I can banish it if I have another Volcanic in the graveyard, and then be able to inflict an additional, or if I have another fire monster in the graveyard, and then I can inflict 3,000 points of damage to my opponent, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of Volcanic Scattershot. So Volcanic Scattershot is really, really good in this deck, and it's probably the main staple of the deck, because when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent, and if this card is sent to the graveyard for the effect of a Blaze Accelerator card, which you do have plenty of Blaze Accelerator cards to go off with in this deck, then you can send 2 more Volcanic Scattershots from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and then destroy all monsters your opponent controls, which is a really good effect just to be able to send them to the graveyard, and it's just really, really good to be able to do that additional board wipe against your opponent. We then play 3 copies of Volcanic Shell. Volcanic Shell is really good too, because it has the ability that you can pay 500 to add another Volcanic Shell from your deck to your hand if this card's in the graveyard, which is a pretty neat effect just to be able to get you that additional draw to hand of another monster. It thins the deck a little bit, and it overall is just a really good card. We then play a single copy of Volcanic Doomfire. Doomfire is a card that I love playing as a 1-of in this deck. Basically, you send a Blaze Accelerator from your field to the graveyard to special summon this card to your field, and then during your opponent's battle phase, your opponent must attack this monster with the attack position monsters they control. And when this card destroys a monster of battle and sends it to the grave, you destroy all monsters your opponent controls and inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed by this effect, which is a pretty powerful effect, and it's just a really good 3,000 beat stick. I then personally play a single copy of Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames, because on top of being a copy of a Ties of the Brethren build, you're also playing a bunch of continuous continuous traps in the deck. So this card's really good at being a kind of like a boss monster for the deck, because for every counter trap or continuous trap in the graveyard, it gains additional 1,000 attack, and also it can pop a set card on your opponent's side of the field, and your opponent can't activate it in response to this card. And it's really easy to summon as well, just by sending 3 face-up traps you control to the graveyard, which is a really easy effect to go off with. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Ash Blossom is really good too because it is a fire monster. You can use this card really well in the deck to be able to send to the graveyard to stop your opponent from touching their deck at all. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing is here so we can summon Utopia Double to OTK our opponent because it's really easy to put 2 level 4s on our side of the field. The Barrier Statue of Infernos does kind of conflict with this card, but if your opponent outs the Barrier Statue and you still have a Volcanic Slicer and Rocket on your side of the field, this card can really help you go off to OTK your opponent. We then play 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. The Foolish Burial Goods is basically here to send the exact trap card you need to the graveyard when you need it. We play 3 copies of Magic Planter because Magic Planter is just really good at sending your counter traps or your continuous traps from your field to the graveyard, so you can draw 2, which is a really good effect. And then we play 3 copies of Ties of the Brethren. Ties of the Brethren is really, really good in this deck because you pay 2,000 and then you target a level 4 monster you control, and for the rest of the turn you can't resolve, or after the rest of the turn you cannot special summon monsters, and also you can special summon 2 monsters from your deck with the same type and attribute and level as the monster that you targeted with this card effect, but with different names from each other. So you basically want to special summon a level 4 to your side of the field, so you'll have like a copy of Volcanic Rocket on your side of the field, activate this, and then special summon out a copy of Slicer, Royal Flamestorm Guard, or a copy of Barrier Statue Infernos. You have 4 targets for this, so it's very easy to pop off with this card, and it's a really, really good card in the deck to work with it to be able to special summon those monsters. So that's it for the spells, guys. You don't play a lot of spells, you play a lot of traps. So let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Jar of Avarice. I did throw a Jar of Avarice in this deck because it's pretty good to be able to target 5 cards in the graveyard, except another Jar of Avarice, and then shuffle those targets into the deck, and then you get to draw a card. I like it in here as a one-of because it's really good to react against the opponent, to be able to shuffle back my copies of Scattershot back into the deck to be able to use it again, which is a really good effect. We play 2 copies of Fiendish Chain just to negate monster effects. It's a really good card because it is a continuous trap. It works with Uriah, and it's really good to work with the other cards like Magic Planner. 2 copies of Summon Limit because it shuts my opponent down because neither player can special summon more than 2 times per turn. I usually don't. That's usually not a big deal for me to stop summoning. We play 3 copies of Blaze Accelerator Reload, which Blaze Accelerator Reload is the entire deck. Like, this card is so important. This card's name becomes Blaze Accelerator while on the field. And also during either player's main phase, you can send a Volcanic card from your hand to the graveyard. And if you do, you get to draw a card, and you only affect this card once per turn. And then during either player's main phase, you can banish this card from the graveyard to send a Volcanic card from your deck to the graveyard, which is your Scattershot, which will go off with your Scattershot's effect to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So this card is a constant board wipe and basically sets up the entire deck. We then play 3 copies of Crackdown. Crackdown is really good because it takes a monster away from our opponent. It can help us Utopia Double because if we take away a level 4, you can basically Utopia Double your opponent for a Crackdown and a normal summon, which is really good to be able to go off with, especially if your opponent leaves themselves open. And also, it destroys itself when the monster leaves the field, but that's okay because the Uriah will love that in the graveyard. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck is very simplistic in what we're trying to do. We're playing a single copy of the Fire Charmer Ablaze. It works really good with fire monsters, so you're playing it as a one-of. It helps you link climb, but it's an overall really good card in this deck. 1 copy of Alamirage. Alamirage helps out in the deck too because you can normal summon out a copy of, say, for example, Shell, and then immediately link away the Shell for a copy of Alamirage, and then pay the 500 to grab another copy of Shell from the deck to mill out the deck just a little bit to help you out with plays and set a bunch of cards face down. It's a really good card to help you protect your cards as well. A single copy of Linkuriboh. The Linkuriboh is kind of the same play. You want to summon this card to your side of the field off of a shell, and it's really, really easy to summon to your side of the field. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. Masquerena is, again, pretty easy to summon to your field and helps you go for Unicorn. 1 copy of Phoenix because it pops spells or traps. Unicorn because it pops, or it spins monsters or spins cards off the field. And then 1 copy of Access Code because Access Code is just really good in this deck to be able to pop additional cards on your opponent's side of the field and be a really big beat stick. For the rank 4s, we're going to be playing a single copy of Tornado Dragon because it pops cards on the field that are spells and traps. 1 copy of Baguska because it changes everything to defense position, which is really good. Exciton Knight because it can blow board, which is a really good effect on this deck because your scatter shots do blow board, but this card, they only do so much. It is the kind of whole premise of the deck is to use scatter shot, but this card is really, really, really good in this deck to be able to pop the whole field. 1 copy of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller shuts down Graveyard. 60 because because 60 can double the attack of a monster, and also it can let you draw 2 and discard 1, or it can let you special summon a monster from the graveyard in defense. So this card's really good in this deck, and also it's a fire monster, so you can lock yourself into fire monsters and then overlay into this in defense position and let you draw 2 and discard 1, but you skip your next draw phase, which is not that big of a deal because you're basically getting it ahead of time, but you're having to discard one of the cards you drew. And then we play a single copy of Utopia and Utopia Double. The Utopia Double is here because you can overlay into Utopia Double, detach a material, grab double or nothing from deck, overlay Utopia. Utopia comes out at 5,000. Swing at your opponent, detach a material, negate the attack, drop double or nothing, swing for 10,000, win the game. It's that simple with this card. And this combo, it's really, really easy to go off with. But the Utopia double combo is ridiculously easy to go into in this deck, and I play it in just about any deck that can make rank 4s. This deck is ridiculously easy to summon this card, and it's really, really a good win con for the deck. Then I play a single copy of Zeus, because Zeus is good for rank 4 decks, and this is very much a rank 4 deck to be able to go around with, and it's really easy to summon Zeus in this deck and board wipe again. So this deck is basically board wipe the deck, which is fun. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you guys see Pain 96 down in the comments down below. I'm sure we all will. And definitely give Pain 96 some love, and hopefully we will definitely get some Volcanic support in the near future. I hope we do, because this deck is in desperate need of some love, and it's really good. Like, the deck is not bad as it stands, but with like 4 or 5 cards, that this deck would be absolutely crazy and would be really good, especially if they do like a poll of like what structure deck we want next. This deck would definitely win. I'm really excited to see what they could do with this deck, because it's really an amazing looking deck, and it can really do some crazy things. So without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.